Winners and losers share the same goals. What separates them isn't the goal itself, it's the system behind it. In Atomic Habits, James Clear proves that tiny, consistent changes compound and change your life. This book gives you a clear, practical system, backed by science, to build habits that stick and break, the ones holding you back. Whether you want to get in shape, build a successful career, improve your relationships, or just stop procrastinating, this breakdown will give you a proven framework. 4 simple laws that make good habits inevitable and bad habits impossible. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how to design your environment, rewire your identity, and build a system that makes progress automatic. First law, make it obvious. The first law of Atomic Habits is simple yet powerful. Make it obvious. This law targets the cue in the habit loop, the trigger that initiates the behavior. Most habits run on autopilot, guided by subtle environmental signals. Your brain has learned to recognize without conscious effort. The brain acts as a prediction machine, cataloging cues from repeated experiences so it can anticipate what comes next. This unconscious awareness is why habits feel automatic, but it also explains why bad ones persist unnoticed until their damage shows up, and why good ones can slip away when cues fade. Let's look at the story of this paramedic at a family gathering. She glanced at her father-in-law and instinctively knew something was wrong. He didn't look right. Years of scanning patients had trained her brain to detect faint, almost imperceptible signs of distress. She insisted he go to the hospital, where doctors discovered a blocked artery that could have triggered a heart attack. Her unconscious pattern recognition saved his life. The same mechanism operates in everyday habits. Cues fire off quietly, pulling us into routines before we even decide. The challenge is that many of our behaviors operate below the level of awareness. To change them, you must first shine a light on them. One practical tool is the Habits Scorecard. List your daily actions from the moment you wake up, brushing your teeth, scrolling your phone, eating breakfast, and label each as positive, negative, or neutral. This exercise brings unconscious patterns into view. Another technique, borrowed from Japanese railway workers, is pointing and calling. Verbally acknowledge the habit as you perform it. Saying "I'm reaching for my phone" out loud forces awareness and creates a brief pause to choose differently. A habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic. The process of habit formation begins with trial and error. Whenever you encounter a new situation in life, your brain has to make a decision. How do I respond to this? The first time you come across a problem, you're not sure how to solve it. Neurological activity in the brain is high during this period. You are carefully analyzing the situation and making conscious decisions about how to act. You're taking in tons of new information and trying to make sense of it all. The brain is busy learning the most effective course of action. Occasionally, like a cat pressing on a lever, you stumble across a solution. You're feeling anxious and you discover that going for a run calms you down. You're mentally exhausted from a long day of work, and you learn that playing video games relaxes you. You're exploring, and then, bam, a reward. After you stumble upon an unexpected reward, you alter your strategy for next time. Your brain immediately begins to catalog the events that preceded the reward. Wait a minute, that felt good. What did I do right before that? This is the feedback loop behind all human behavior. Try, fail, learn, try differently. With practice, the useless movements fade away and the useful actions get reinforced. That's a habit forming. Whenever you face a problem repeatedly, your brain begins to automate the process of solving it. Your habits are just a series of automatic solutions that solve the problems and stresses you face regularly. As behavioral scientist Jason Hriha writes, habits are simply reliable solutions to recurring problems in our environment. Once you're aware, the most effective way to install a new habit is to make the cue crystal clear. Vague intentions like, "I want to exercise more," rarely stick. Instead, use implementation intentions. Decide exactly when and where the behavior will happen. The formula is I will behavior at time in location. Research shows this simple planning more than doubles follow-through rates. For example, people who specified, I will exercise for 30 minutes at 7 a.m. in the gym, succeeded far more often than those who just planned to exercise. Build on that with habit stacking, linking the new behavior to an existing, reliable routine. The phrase becomes after current habit, I will new habit. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. After I finish dinner, I will put on my running shoes. By anchoring to established cues, you borrow their reliability and make the new action feel inevitable. Motivation often gets overrated here. Willpower fluctuates, but your environment is always present. Rather than relying on discipline to resist temptation, design your surroundings to make good cues obvious and bad ones invisible. Place fruit on the counter instead of hiding it in the fridge. Charge your phone in another room at night to reduce mindless scrolling. Move the TV remote out of sight if you want less screen time. Small environmental tweaks create massive leverage because context drives behavior more than sheer effort. The inversion of this law applies when breaking bad habits. Make it invisible. Remove the cues entirely. Delete social media apps from your home screen. Throw out junk food, or rearrange your space so triggers disappear. Disciplined people aren't superhuman in willpower. They simply spend less time in tempting environments. Self-control becomes easier when you don't need it as often. In short, clarity defeats chaos. By making cues for good habits unmistakable through awareness, precise planning, stacking, and environment design, you remove friction and let automatic behavior work in your favor. This sets the foundation for the remaining laws, turning tiny shifts into remarkable, lasting change. Second law. Make it attractive. The second law of atomic habits is make it attractive. This law targets the craving stage in the habit loop, the motivational force that drives us to act after a cue appears. Habits aren't just triggered, they're fueled by anticipation. The more appealing a behavior feels, the more likely we are to repeat it. At the heart of this is dopamine, the neurotransmitter that surges not primarily when we experience pleasure, but when we anticipate it. Dopamine spikes create desire, turning neutral actions into ones we crave. Without that craving, motivation fades, and even the best intentions stall. Modern life exploits this brilliantly, and often against us. Industries engineer supernormal stimuli, exaggerated versions of natural rewards like junk food loaded with salt, sugar, and fat, or social media feeds designed for endless scrolling. These hyper-stimulating cues trigger massive dopamine responses, making overconsumption feel irresistible. The lesson? We can flip the script. To build good habits, we must make them feel just as rewarding in anticipation. One powerful strategy is temptation bundling. Pair an action you need to do with something you want to do. Only allow yourself to watch your favorite show while on the treadmill or listen to your favorite podcast only during workouts. This links the should to instant pleasure, spiking dopamine during the cue and making the habit far more appealing. Combine it with habit stacking from the first law. After I current habit I need, I will habit I want. Over time, your brain associates the necessary behavior with enjoyment. Social environment plays a huge role too. We are deeply wired to fit in. Habits become more attractive when they align with the norms of a group we admire or belong to. Join a culture where your desired behavior is the standard, whether it's a running club, a book group, or an online community of early risers. Surrounding yourself with people who already embody the identity you want accelerates change because belonging feels inherently rewarding. The inversion applies here. To break bad habits, make it unattractive, highlight the downsides, reframe them negatively, or associate them with people or groups you dislike. As habits are created, the level of activity in the brain decreases. You learn to lock in on the cues that predict success and tune out everything else. When a similar situation arises in the future, you know exactly what to look for. There is no longer a need to analyze every angle of a situation. Your brain skips the process of trial and error and creates a mental rule. If this, then that. These cognitive scripts can be followed automatically whenever the situation is appropriate. Now, whenever you feel stressed, you get the itch to run. As soon as you walk in the door from work, you grab the video game controller. A choice that once required effort is now automatic. A habit has been created. Habits are mental shortcuts, learned from experience. In a sense, a habit is just a memory of the steps you previously followed to solve a problem in the past. Whenever the conditions are right, you can draw on this memory and automatically apply the same solution. The primary reason the brain remembers the past is to better predict what will work in the future. Finally, dig deeper into the root causes. Every habit satisfies a deeper motive, seeking approval, reducing anxiety, gaining status, conserving energy. Bad habits often fulfill these in short-term flawed ways. To quit them, expose the underlying craving and reframe the habit to emphasize its true costs rather than temporary benefits. For good habits, create a motivation ritual. Do something that evokes positive feelings right before the tough action, conditioning your brain to link effort with reward. In essence, attraction defeats resistance. By engineering cravings through dopamine anticipation, temptation bundling, social alignment, and mindset reframing, you make good habits feel inevitable and bad ones feel unappealing. This emotional pull builds momentum, paving the way for the third law to make action effortless. Small tweaks in how desirable a behavior seems compound into powerful, automatic change. Third law. Make it easy. The third law of atomic habits is make it easy. This law focuses on the response stage in the habit loop, the actual behavior you perform after the cue appears and the craving builds. Humans naturally gravitate toward the path of least resistance, the law of least effort. Our brains are wired to conserve energy, so we default to whatever requires the fewest steps, least friction, and minimal willpower. The easier a good habit is to start and sustain, the more likely it becomes automatic. Conversely, increasing friction turns bad habits into uphill battles. The core insight is that action beats perfection. Many people get stuck in endless planning, researching the optimal workout, diet, or productivity system without ever executing. James Clear distinguishes motion, planning, strategizing, learning, from action, doing the thing. Motion feels productive but produces no results. Only action does. Repetition is what builds automaticity. Habits form through frequency more than intensity. Get your reps in consistently, even if slowly. As the saying goes, walk slowly but never backward. Quantity drives quality over time. A photographer who took hundreds of photos out performed one aiming for perfection in a famous experiment. The takeaway: start imperfectly and build momentum through repetition. To make habits easy, reduce friction. Prime your environment so the behavior flows naturally. Prep your gym clothes the night before, keep your running shoes by the door, or set up your workspace for deep work. Automate where possible. Schedule recurring payments for savings, use apps to block distractions, or prep meals in advance. The fewer barriers between you and the action, the harder it is to avoid. A standout tool is the 2-minute rule. Scale any habit down to something that takes less than 2 minutes to start. Run for 30 minutes becomes put on running shoes. Meditate daily becomes sit and breathe for 2 minutes. Read before bed becomes read 1 page. This lowers the activation energy dramatically, turning daunting tasks into trivial ones. Once you begin, momentum often carries you further. The decisive moment is getting started. Use this to master the gateway action that unlocks the full habit. For bad habits, invert the law. Make it difficult. Increase friction to disrupt automatic behavior. Hide junk food in hard-to-reach places. Log out of social media accounts or use commitment devices. Choices made now that lock in better behavior later. Examples include apps that block sites during work hours, freezing credit cards in ice to curb impulse spending, or deleting tempting apps entirely. One-time decisions like automating savings or buying smaller plates for portion control create perpetual benefits. Habit formation is incredibly useful because the conscious mind is the bottleneck of the brain. It can only pay attention to one problem at a time. As a result, your brain is always working to preserve your conscious attention for whatever task is most essential. Whenever possible, the conscious mind likes to pawn off tasks to the non-conscious mind to do automatically. This is precisely what happens when a habit is formed. Habits reduce cognitive load and free up mental capacity, so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. Habits do not restrict freedom, they create it. In fact, the people who don't have their habits handled are often the ones with the least amount of freedom. Without good financial habits, you will always be struggling for the next dollar. Without good health habits, you will always seem to be short on energy. Without good learning habits, you will always feel like you're behind the curve. If you're always being forced to make decisions about simple tasks, when should I work out? Where do I go to write? When do I pay the bills? Then you have less time for freedom. It's only by making the fundamentals of life easier that you can create the mental space needed for free thinking and creativity. In short, effortlessness defeats procrastination. By reducing friction for good habits through environment priming, automation, and the 2-minute rule, and adding it for bad ones via commitment devices, you align with human nature rather than fight it. Action becomes the default. Repetition compounds, and tiny, easy behaviors evolve into powerful, automatic routines. This paves the way for the fourth law to lock in satisfaction and make change stick long-term. Fourth law, make it satisfying. The fourth law of atomic habits is make it satisfying. This law completes the habit loop by targeting the reward stage, the final piece that reinforces the entire cycle. After the cue triggers awareness, the craving builds motivation, and the response delivers action. The reward provides closure and teaches your brain. This behavior is worth repeating. The cardinal rule of behavior change captures it perfectly. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. In our modern world, we live in a delayed return environment. Good habits often deliver their biggest payoffs far in the future. Better health from consistent exercise, financial security from daily saving, stronger relationships from regular effort, while the immediate costs, time, discomfort, effort, hit right now. Bad habits flip this. Instant pleasure, scrolling, snacking, procrastination, followed by delayed pain. Instant gratifications usually wins because our brains evolved in immediate return environments where survival rewards came quickly. To make good habits stick, we must bridge that gap by engineering immediate satisfaction. The key is to create reinforcements that feel good right after the behavior ends. Pair the habit with something enjoyable. Reward yourself with a favorite song after a workout, a relaxing bath after studying, or a small treat after a productive session. These immediate rewards don't replace the long-term benefits. They sustain momentum until intrinsic motivation, the habit itself feeling rewarding, takes over. Over time, as identity shifts, I'm the kind of person who shows up. The behavior becomes satisfying in its own right. One of the most powerful tools here is habit tracking. Make progress visible and tangible. Mark an X on a calendar. Check off a box in an app. Move a paperclip from one jar to another, or maintain a simple streak log. Each completion delivers a small hit of satisfaction. You see the chain growing, feel the momentum, and hate to break it. This don't break the chain effect turns abstract effort into concrete wins, providing proof of progress and reinforcing consistency. Never miss twice. If you slip, get back on track immediately to protect the streak. For added leverage, use an accountability partner or a habit contract. Share your goals with someone who holds you accountable, or write a formal agreement with consequences for failure. Donate to a cause you dislike, or do an unpleasant task. These create immediate social or financial discomfort for missing the habit, flipping the reward dynamic. Sticking becomes satisfying because it avoids punishment. The inversion of the fourth law breaks bad habits. Make it unsatisfying. Amplify the downsides. Track indulgences to highlight their cost. Impose immediate penalties, or associate the behavior with negative feelings. In essence, satisfaction seals the deal. The first 3 laws get the habit started this time. The 4th law ensures it happens next time by adding immediate rewards, tracking progress visibly, and introducing accountability. You align short-term feelings with long-term goals. Change becomes not just possible, but enjoyable and sustainable. With all 4 laws working together, obvious cues, attractive cravings, easy actions, and satisfying rewards, tiny atomic habits compound into remarkable lifelong transformation. Advanced tactics. Habits are like the atoms of our lives. Each one is a fundamental unit that contributes to your overall improvement. At first, these tiny routines seem insignificant, but soon they build on each other and fuel bigger wins that multiply to a degree that far outweighs the cost of their initial investment. They are both small and mighty. This is the meaning of the phrase atomic habits, a regular practice or routine that is not only small and easy to do, but also the source of incredible power, a component of the system of compound growth. Once you've wired in atomic habits using the 4 laws, making them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying, the real mastery begins. Excellence isn't just about consistency. It's about aligning your efforts with your unique strengths, staying in flow over the long haul, and preventing plateaus or rigid thinking. These advanced strategies turn reliable habits into world-class performance. Genes load the gun, but habits pull the trigger. Talent and genetics provide natural advantages, but they only determine destiny when you play in the wrong field. James Clear contrasts Michael Phelps, whose long torso, short legs, and massive wingspan made him a swimming phenom, with Hicham El Guerrouj, a runner whose shorter stature and long legs suited distance running perfectly. Both dominated because their physical traits aligned with their sport. Phelps would struggle in running, El Guerrouj in swimming. The lesson: to maximize success, choose the right field of competition. Habits compound fastest when they fit your natural inclinations, personality, and strengths. Explore widely early on to discover where your advantages lie. Test different habits, careers, or skills. Then exploit the ones that feel effortless and rewarding. Genes reveal potential directions. Habits unlock the results. Pick environments and pursuits where your genetic lottery gives you an edge, then outwork everyone else through deliberate, consistent practice. Talent matters most at the extremes, but for most of us, strategic alignment and persistent effort trump raw ability. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that sit right on the edge of their current abilities. Not too easy, not too hard, just right. This is the Goldilocks rule. Too simple, and boredom sets in. Too difficult, and frustration or anxiety takes over. The sweet spot, often around 4% beyond your skill level, creates a state of flow, full immersion, enjoyment, and rapid learning. Clear draws from comedians like Chris Rock and Steve Martin, who spent years honing material in small clubs, gradually raising the difficulty as they improved. The brain craves challenges that stretch us slightly, delivering dopamine hits from progress without overwhelm. To stay motivated long-term, continually adjust your habits to maintain this optimal challenge. When a skill becomes routine and boredom creeps in, increase the stakes, add complexity, compete, teach others, or set new goals. When it's overwhelming, scale back temporarily. Mastery requires staying in the Goldilocks zone. Embrace the discomfort of growth, but never stray so far that motivation dies. This rule explains why deliberate practice feels engaging for experts. They keep nudging the boundary of their ability. Habits are double-edged. They free mental energy and drive mastery, but they can also lock you into outdated patterns, blind you to better options, or create complacency. Once a behavior becomes automatic, we stop thinking about it, and that's the risk. Without reflection, small errors compound into flaws, and rigid identities, I'm a runner or I'm disciplined, can resist necessary change. The solution is periodic review and deliberate practice. Schedule time to audit your habits. What's working? What's drifting? Are you still improving or just maintaining? Use reflection to catch plateaus early. Track metrics, Journal wins and setbacks or seek feedback. Pair habits with awareness so they evolve rather than fossilize. The downside also appears in identity. Strong habits reinforce who you are, but clinging too tightly can limit growth. Remain open to reinvention. Update your identity as you level up. True greatness comes from habits that compound positively while allowing flexibility. Review regularly. Refine relentlessly. And never let automaticity become stagnation. In wrapping up these advanced tactics, remember, the 4 laws build the system, but mastery requires alignment with your strengths, sustained challenge in the Goldilocks zone, and vigilant reflection to keep evolving. Habits are tools for becoming the best version of yourself, not a cage. Apply these principles, and tiny, consistent actions lead, not just to good results, but to extraordinary lifelong excellence. The journey through atomic habits doesn't end with mastery. It circles back to the enduring truth that sustains everything. The secret to results that last is to never stop making improvements. Success isn't a finish line you cross once. It's an endless process of refinement. James Clear invokes the Sorites paradox, the heap paradox, to illustrate this. 1 grain of sand isn't a heap, nor is adding 1 more, yet keep adding, and suddenly you have a mountain. 1 tiny habit rarely transforms your life overnight, but layer thousands of small positive votes over time, and the scales tip dramatically. Each atomic improvement nudges you forward. Ignore the tiny declines and they drag you backward. The compound effect works both ways. 1% better daily multiplies into extraordinary gains. 1% worse erodes everything. True excellence emerges when you fall in love with the system itself, not just the outcome. There is no final destination where habits become perfect and effort stops. Plateaus will come, motivation will dip, life will interrupt, but the winners are those who keep showing up, tweaking, and stacking 1 small win after another. Reflect regularly, adjust as needed, and embrace boredom as the price of mastery. When you commit to continuous incremental progress, the results become inevitable. Tiny changes, compounded relentlessly, deliver remarkable, lasting transformation. That is the real power of atomic habits. Conclusion. Fall in love with the daily process, not the distant goal. Embrace the boredom that comes with mastery. Celebrate the consistency that no one sees. Because the person who shows up when it feels ordinary is the one who ends up extraordinary. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tonight. You just need to make the next version of yourself slightly prouder than today's. 1 small habit at a time. 1 atomic improvement. 1 vote for the identity you want to claim. The secret to results that last isn't intensity, it's persistence. Keep nudging the needle forward, even when no one is watching, even when progress feels glacial. Trust the compound curve. Trust that the version of you waiting on the other side is already grateful for the effort you're willing to put in right now. You've got the framework. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. Now go use it. Start with something so small it's almost laughable. Then do it again tomorrow. Because the life you want isn't built in grand gestures. It's assembled, brick by tiny brick, in the quiet moments no one else sees. Thank you for walking through this journey with me. Now turn off this video, pick 1 habit, and begin. The compounding starts the second you decide it does.